The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast, featuring Jeff Upson and Eric Knopsnyder. PA Power Wrestling. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
What's going on, wrestling fans? You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast. I'm Jeff Upson, joined as always by Eric Knopsnyder. And Eric, I hate to put pressure on ourselves, but I think this is going to be one of our best shows that we've had to date.
I would fully agree with you, Jeff. We were at Fargo camp today at Clarion, and man, some great interviews coming up. Can't wait to get that out to the people and let them know what's going on as we head into Fargo week.
I mean, I'm stoked. I got really excited this week, knowing it was Fargo week. Just a great tradition here in Pennsylvania with going out to Fargo. So we were able to go up to Clarion where they're holding the camp, and we were able to get some interviews, get some coverage of the Pennsylvania wrestlers that are currently up there training. We got some interviews with Trent, Hidlay, Sammy Sasso, Josh Stillings, Bryan Pearsall, Josh Dziewa, Teague Moore. I mean, it was a little overwhelming, but in a good way.
Oh, just great stuff from those guys. And it was just fun. You and I were able to go into the practice room a little bit, watch, All-Americans like Sammy Sasso and Justin McCoy practicing together. Just some great stuff there. And, yeah, so excited for Fargo. Really
excited. It just speaks to the testament of just Pennsylvania wrestling, the excitement around it. And, we're going to try to provide the best coverage. I know we said it to you before that we're going out to Fargo for the first time. PA Power Wrestling will be there in the flesh, trying to give you the best coverage of Pennsylvania wrestling that there is. I felt a little bit of pressure because we just had our college podcast released, our first one with Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner. And they tried to show us up a little bit, Eric. They
did an awesome job.
Don't give them too much credit.
To those guys. Yeah, well, no, it was awesome. I listened to it on the drive to Clarion, and great job by them, and really exciting to be able to hear, their input and get their take on it. Two guys that have done it at the college level, just what they're seeing. And that's going to be an awesome show. I can't wait to hear the future episodes from those guys.
Yeah, I know, and it's great. We were talking today, and Coach from NC State, Frank Beasley, and I said, I had to bring on two guys that actually knew a little bit about wrestling. Instead of you and I, Eric. I mean, maybe you, and not so much myself, right? So, Mason and Tristan are very excited about this opportunity, and I just want to publicly say that they did a phenomenal job. And really looking forward to the future, like you said. But for right now, we're going to be talking about some guys that maybe in the future they will be talking about on the college podcast. But my gosh, you look at this Pennsylvania lineup going out to Fargo, and it's. I mean, yeah, we may be missing a few guys that we'd like to have here, but talking about just a team that really can make some noise out in Fargo. This 2017 team, I'm excited about.
Definitely. Did take a little bit of a hit. Well, a big hit, actually. Gavin Teasdale not going to be competing out there. So that's a loss. He's a guy that you figure is certainly going to medal. Obviously, always a good chance to win it all. So that takes a hit. But, there's so much depth. And we talk about this all the time. Pennsylvania has so much depth that you can have so many guys out there placing and piling up points. And, quite a few that have a legitimate chance to win it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And having Gavin being missing from this is really difficult. But at the same time, and you're going to hear Josh Dziewa talk about this, is someone's going to step up. Someone's got to. We've definitely have the firepower, and Illinois is going to bring it. Illinois got a really good team coming again this year. Pennsylvania was able to steal one last year. I say steal one because it's really ours to begin with. Illinois stole the last 8 years, whatever it is that they want, right? I think Pennsylvania will be competing for a Fargo National Championship as a team coming up here soon. But what we're going to do is we're going to break down some of the teams that we have coming out between the cadet and the junior teams. And really, when I look at the cadet, I mean, this is really where some of the maybe lesser known name guys that this is, I mean, for example, this is where Jake Woodley made his name. He was coming off a freshman season at North Allegheny where he went 500, and all of a sudden, he comes out and gets an All-American finish at Fargo. So there's going to be someone that does just that. But really what jumps off the page at me right now is Carter Starocki, and I was able to do a feature on him, and he was a state runner-up over the last year, and I really do think he's poised for a good performance here. He's been wrestling like crazy since finishing second in the state, and I will encourage you to go ahead and read that article, and he's pretty clear about it. He's not coming away from Fargo without that national championship.
Yeah, and as you said, there's so many guys, though. I mean, he's obviously a big one, but, you got Ed Scott, you got Zach Whitmer. I mean, just so many guys that have a lot of potential in this cadet lineup. Some really good stuff there that I think we're going to see out of these guys. And as you said, you get a guy that comes out of nowhere that you didn't really expect. So a lot of things to look forward to here.
Yeah, and definitely, I think, obviously he's just one of the names that sticks out to me, and I think he's got a good chance. But, I mean, just going through 94, I see Sheldon Seymour. He's undersized this last season, competing in his first year at high school from Troy, and I think if he's 94 pounds is naturally where he is at. So I would be hard-pressed to see if he does not do well. I'm not saying he's going to necessarily end up top 8, but I think he's going to win some matches.
Yeah, as you said, it's tough whenever it's at 106, and then you're getting weight, and if you're a 94-pound guy, that's a lot of weight to be given up.
Yeah, it sure is, and he was still able to do well. He qualified for states. He was able to come away with some wins there, and I think that whether he's I think he's going to be able to do some damage in Fargo. Coming up around 100 pounds, Chris Kim, but he was a prep wrestler for Germantown Academy, had a solid season. He was one of our top incoming freshmen. You look at 106, Ryan Miller, he was from the Stroudsburg area, and now he's at Blair Academy. I really think that and I think he's one that is a little bit more well-known. I think he probably has some rankings on the national level for some of the things that he's done. He's had a good showing at Journeyman before. So Ryan Miller's one guy that I think is probably when we look at the cadets, the lightweights, there's not a whole lot. And last year, actually, Pennsylvania didn't fare too well in the lightweights for cadets. I believe that the first medalist in cadets wasn't until it was Sammy Sasso at 138. So,
and that's really unusual for Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Usually the lightweights do very well.
Right, yeah. So that's sort of concerning to me, just seeing last year and having our first medalist in cadet not be until Sammy Sasso. So I'm hoping that can get turned around this year. And
yeah, I think it does. I don't see any way in the world that you get into the 130s, 140s without getting a medalist.
Well, I mean, someone's got to step up and do it. Brock McMillan's in there at 106 as well, Willa Kaler. But Ryan Miller, I think, is definitely got a shot. You look at 113, Lincoln Heck, he's at Wyman Seminary now. Luke Lucerne from Council Rock North. Blake Passarelli, he's another one there. So those three are solid at 113. But, I mean, 113 is a deep weight, so it's going to be difficult for any of those three to get on the medal stand, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not guaranteeing anything there, but I'm just saying that in the lightweights in general, I think it'll be a better showing this year.
Sure. No, I agree with you there. And if you move up to 120, a guy that you were able to talk to, Eric, before Fargo is Zach Whitmer. And, talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, impressive young man. Spoke with him. He's going to be a freshman at St. Joseph's Catholic Academy in State College, three-time PJW champ, and he's got a great attitude going into to Fargo. He knows that there's some really talented guys there, possibly a world team member, some other guys that have made national headlines. But he said, hey, I'm going out there to win. We'll see how it goes, but that's my attitude, is I'm going there to win. And to see that confidence in a kid of that age, but also the realism that, hey, I might not be the favorite, but I'm going to go out there and do what I do and see how it stacks up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to hear. Someone of his age, and obviously he's accomplished a lot in his short youth career, right? But still a lot to come from him, and this is really a big stage. But I think obviously having that experience wrestling in PJWs and all over the nation, Zach's been wrestling, so that's pretty cool to hear him say that, hey, my goal is going to go out there and win, and obviously he's putting in the work. So 120, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people going out there from Pennsylvania. So Marquise Branford, he'll be there. A guy that probably not a lot of people know the name just yet, but that's Jagger Condomiti. I believe that's Condomiti. I'm going to have to get a proper pronunciation for that, but I believe that's how you say it. Coming out of District 11, I think he's going to have a good showing and maybe upset some people that he wasn't supposed to beat. You move up to 126, and here's a guy that is under the radar simply because of the fact that he's at Franklin Regional, and no one gets to be associated with Franklin Regional unless you're Spencer Lee, right? So Colton Camacho, and he's a guy that wrestled a lot over the summer, Disney, Virginia Beach, and he actually won the PAWF state tournament. He beat Ed Scott, teched him, and Ed Scott's no slouch, right? So no,
absolutely not.
So
that I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting result. Now Ed Scott down at 120 now.
Clearly, he's transitioned well into his freestyle, and he's a guy that I think's been on the cusp of things and accomplishing good things. And I don't know necessarily where he's going to end up, but I do think that he's going to have a chance to impress some people out in Fargo. You also got Josh Jones from out in Saucon Valley area, and like you said, this really I'm hoping that we get a medalist before 138.
Yeah, I feel very confident. I like this group. I like some of the lightweights in here, and I definitely think we'll have some awards there.
132 pounds, Anthony Tamburino from William Tennant from out in District 1. He'll be competing there, and I think he has potential to be sort of a breakout wrestler here in Fargo. Moving up to 138 pounds, Carter Tuttle from Wyoming Seminary. He was a national finalist last year in Fargo in Greco. He'll be wrestling in both freestyle and Greco this season, and hopefully Carter can match, if not improve on his finish from second last year. He'll be competing at 138. Last year he was at 126 pounds, but he actually lost to Nicky Ramio from New Jersey in the finals, 13-10. So he's another one that I'm keeping an eye on to get a medal, and not only in Greco, but maybe even freestyle.
Yeah, that would be great if he can come back as a double All-American this year. Great stuff out of him last year, as you said, to get second in Greco, but I'm sure he's looking for bigger things this year.
And it's sort of interesting to me, looking at the cadet freestyle roster and the cadet Greco. Obviously, some wrestlers are competing only in Greco or only in freestyle or both. So it's hard to sort of sift through all the wrestlers and try to figure out who exactly is going to be wrestling in what style, right?
Well, what are your thoughts there, Jeff? Do you buy into any notion that it's tough to do both at a high level in a tournament like this, or do you just say, hey, you're going to Fargo, why not wrestle both and see what you can do?
I definitely think that you look at it from the sense of you're young, more mat time is better. Some guys Greco's just not their thing, right? I mean, Greco's it's a different animal. Obviously freestyle and folk style are much more comparable, but I think it's really up to the individual wrestler. I mean, if they feel like they have fun wrestling Greco, which some people just say they don't have fun wrestling Greco, so they're not going to do it. So I would say, why do it if you're not going out there to actually win and compete in it? But I also see the upside to say, well, we're going to get you experience. We're going to have you wrestling in all the matches possible. So I think it comes down to an individual choice.
Okay, that makes sense. I just wondered your take on it, because I'm sort of like you. I'm with the mindset, hey, you're going out there, why not give them both a shot and see how it's going? But if you're completely uncomfortable in Greco, yeah, don't go out there and put yourself in a position where you're either not competitive or worse, at a risk of getting injured.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. I mean, how many people? I mean, Greco's obviously style of wrestling in the United States. It's one that we struggle at, right? So, some of these kids may be looking at it and saying, "Well, it really what's that going to do for me?" But we had Hayden Hidlay. Hidlay, he was cadet and junior, I believe, both cadet and junior All-American and national champion in Greco. So clearly, there's a lot of guys that can do both at a high level, but I think it just depends on the individual.
I didn't mean to get us off track there. I just want to get your input on your thoughts there and how the competition lines up for some of these guys.
No, I agree, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how these guys are able to handle both styles. Some that are doing that. So, regardless, 145, Cole Reese, guy that many of you are going to know for the next foreseeable future. Cole Reese is going to be a freshman next year at Wyman Seminary. He's going to be in our top incoming freshman without a doubt. Just a matter of how high he's going to be. Really looking forward to seeing how he does on a national stage. He's competed in a ton of different youth events. I'm actually successful at a ton of different youth events nationally. So again, we look at people trying to make a name for themselves. Cole Reese is one that I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses in Fargo and really see if he's able to come away with some hardware.
Yeah, and it's such a great opportunity. And I know you mentioned it a little bit before, but our interview with Josh Dziewa, he talks about the opportunity that Fargo gave him, and you talk about a guy like Jake Woodley, and so many guys make their name out here. I know Cole Reese has had success already, but this is really the chance that guys get to really burst on the national stage and really put their name out there. So just a great opportunity for these kids.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. And obviously he's wrestled in high level competitions before, but Fargo's a entirely different beast in that sense. So it's going to be fun to watch this. It's really transpire, and he's one of the guys that's going to be wrestling in both styles. He's going to have a teammate there, Benny Baker, who's also at 145. So definitely fun for the Wyman Seminary team to be watching. 152, Carter Starocki is definitely a favorite of mine. I think that he's going to, again, in his interview, he says, I want to go out there and I want to win the championship. He thinks he belongs there. He's been training hard, and I think 152 pounds is a good weight for him. He was up at 160 pounds for the state tournament, the PIWF state tournament, but he says he feels comfortable at 152 pounds. So he's one to keep an eye on. Definitely, he only went I believe he went 3-2 last year at cadets in freestyle. But the interesting thing about Carter is he had just started wrestling freestyle last year. He was, as a youth wrestler, he only competed primarily during the regular season because he was doing multiple sports. So he's really just getting into his own in freestyle. So the sky's the limit for him. And this is a guy who wrestled in the World Team Trials just a few weeks ago. So clearly he's a guy with an upward trajectory.
Yeah, and as you said, a kid like that, he's still young, so it's fine to play all those sports. I just did a series on some student athletes that are looking at the recruiting, and I talked to them about, hey, what do coaches tell you as far as playing other sports? And most of them said that college coaches are fine with that. If you haven't concentrated on wrestling year round, it gives you that opportunity for growth whenever you do concentrate on it year round. So some guys are more comfortable doing that right away. Others like to, continue to play the other sports, and we'll focus on that at a later time. If Carter's ready to do that, he probably has the ability to make really big gains, in the next year or two as far as his freestyle wrestling goes.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Eric. Another guy, 152 pounds, he was a freshman last year, was a National Prep All-American from Mercersburg, and that's Aurelius Dunbar, a guy who really was one of the top incoming freshmen for us last season, and he really I got to see him at Escape the Rock. He had some solid wins there. Just definitely a young up-and-coming guy, and I'm excited to see how he does at 152 pounds in freestyle. And one surprising thing that came off when I was looking at these rosters is Garrett Nyhouse from Cannon Mac. He's all the way up to 170. He's wrestling 170. He's wrestling freestyle. He's going to be joined by Luke Nichter from Chambersburg, who just really, I think, underrated in that sense that he maybe not get the recognition he deserves. I think Luke flew under the radar a little bit this past season at Chambersburg. He was a state medalist in his first year there, and a guy who's got a lot of experience on the national level. So I really would love to see both Luke and Garrett come away from Fargo with some hardware.
Yeah, great opportunity there for those guys. Interesting to see, as you said, moving up Ninehouse, see how he does. Kind of a big jump, but obviously we know he's got tons of talent and ability. Yeah,
for sure. And I think this is only going to make him a little bit better when it comes around to folk style. So Garrett wrestling up at 170, I love it. That means, he's obviously feels comfortable up there. I definitely thought that he was probably going to end up around the 160, 170 range next season. So it's nice to see that he's going there against some really tough competition nationally. So 182 pounds, there's a couple teammates, Darren Roberts and Kyle Costello both from Wyoming Seminary. They'll be competing at 182, 195, Mason McCready. 220, a guy that I would love to see do well here, and that's Hunter Katka. And people are asking me, who is this kid? And he's just he's a man child. I mean, he's big, and I think he's only like 14 or 15. I mean, he was a freshman last year, and he's 220 pounds. He was a state qualifier last year at Sun Valley. That's in District 1 for all of you who are thinking, where the heck is Sun Valley at? Right, Eric, you may have been one of those.
As I asked you earlier this week.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with it. Hunter, I think this is sky's the limit for him at 220. I mean, this is a weight where, he's a man among boys in certain aspects at cadets. So this could be a very interesting guy to watch coming out in Fargo, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him come away with a top 3 finish. Really.
Wow, that's a bold statement, but we'll see
I don't know if it is. I mean, he's clearly got the skill sets. I haven't dissected and looked at exactly who's all going to be at 220 in cadets, but clearly he's got to be being a state qualifier in Pennsylvania your freshman year. I think that qualifies you to be in contention for a Fargo finish. Just my opinion. If you want that opinion, right?
Absolutely, we want that opinion, Jeff. That's why the people tune in.
I don't know about that. Certainly not for our witty humor, right? Kobe Whitehill from Brookville be at 285 along with Jacob Edwards. So cadets, these are, we didn't go through every single name, and I apologize, but there's a ton of them in both freestyle and Greco. So if we didn't mention you, feel free to punch me in the face in Fargo. But I really do think that whether you look at it right now and say, yeah, there's some studs on there, I think that we're going to get a lot of guys that not necessarily were expecting to do well, but end up doing well out there. So there's someone that's going to surprise us. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And that's year after year.
And anybody that is going to punch Jeff in the face in Fargo, let me know so I can get it on video.
Listen, it wouldn't be the first time I was punched in the face on video. I do wear a body camera, Eric, so it's fun to watch those back, right? So, going up to juniors, or actually, let's stick with cadets and go cadets women's. Caitlin Walker, girl that really, my gosh, she just won a Pan Am championship. She was down in I believe it was Brazil. Argentina. It was Argentina. She was down there for the Pan Am Championships representing Team USA, and she came away with a championship. She came away with a gold medal in cadets at 94 pounds, and that's where she'll be competing at in Fargo. Caitlin's got to be one of the favorites considering the fact that she's on the world team. This is her second world team that she's going to be on. So obviously, the skills are there for her, and I really hope that she's able to come away with the championship.
Yeah, she's a returning national champ, too. She won cadet national title last year, so obviously a favorite there. I don't know what the rest of the weight looks like, but you got to imagine with those credentials that she's certainly the favorite there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric, and I'm sorry I failed to mention that. Yes, she was a cadet national champion last year, so this year's obviously she's looking to repeat that coming into Fargo in 2017. You got Mia Butler, Kayla Kerr, Cameron Fitzgerald, you got Tiffany McNeilis, Jillian Bruno. These are all our females that are women's wrestlers that are trying to really make their name for themselves out here on the national level. But we may not cover them a whole lot prior to, right? But I believe once we're out there in Fargo, we'll be able to get a better idea of what's going on with the cadet women's.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting for me because I really haven't gotten to see too much women's wrestling. Just the way it works out, it's harder in Pennsylvania to see it than it is some other places at that high level. So I'm definitely interested to check that out and see how some of these young ladies do.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, Pennsylvania has found success before with some of our women wrestlers. There's a ton of female wrestlers from Pennsylvania that have done well, but may not necessarily get all the press and the accolades as some of our guys do. So we will definitely be trying to get the coverage out of the Pennsylvania women's wrestlers that are going to be out there competing in Fargo. So if we move up to juniors now, this is where the names start becoming a little bit more familiar, right? These are names that have been around for maybe a little bit on the state level at least. And looking at the junior freestyle, now we had a champion here last year in Jarrett Lane in Greco. He was a two-time national champion in Greco. He will not be coming out this year, but we definitely have some guys that I think are able and capable of making some noise. Looking at 113, Doug Zapp from Downingtown West. He was a state champion last year, and he's just recently committed to Penn. So we'll be able to talk to Coach Pearsall about him. But Doug's a guy who I think maybe not necessarily on the national level has gotten a lot of attention, but I think he's a guy that is going to go out there and win some matches.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's really taken some steps forward, I think, and I'm interested to see how he does out here or out in Fargo. And I like his chances there, as you said, of coming home with some hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. And a guy last year who came away with some hardware at 113 pounds in juniors was Mike Madeira from Blair Academy. He's originally from Nazareth. He was just a hammer in the Pennsylvania youth circuit. Went out to Blair where he's competed for them, was a national prep All-American. He was fifth last year at 113 pounds. So clearly a guy who's been there, done that. I think this year he's poised for another high finish. He's moving up to 120 pounds in junior freestyle. He's joined by Wyatt Lutz from Montoursville. So I think our real shot. I mean, obviously he finished fifth last year. You would expect him to get on the podium again, but Mikey's a guy who I think could definitely do that for Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no guarantees, obviously, but anybody that's back and has done it before, you definitely like their odds of going out there and performing well again.
A guy, Nick Bauer, as well. I failed to mention from Wyoming Seminary. He's recently committed to Seton Hill. He's going to be competing at 113 in both freestyle and Greco. At 126, you got Zach Macy from Chartiers Valley. You got Gabe Miller from Pequot Valley. Ryan O'Grady, Nazareth. Cole Roan, Benton. Really just some names that jump off the page at you. And really, Ryan O'Grady is going to surprise some people. I think Gabe Miller is going to surprise some people. Gabe Miller's, wrestled a lot since finishing as a state medalist his first time at Pequot Valley. But I think Gabe and Ryan O'Grady doesn't get a lot of respect, I don't think, just based on the fact that he's on the Nazareth team where you have a couple other guys there that get a lot of press, right?
Yeah, a few guys that have done some things and kind of made a name for themselves. So yeah, not hard to get overlooked a little bit there.
No, it's not. But you look at some of the other names in juniors going up to 100. Well, again, we 126 pounds originally. We had Gavin Teasdale slated to go there. He's a returning Fargo national champion. But all the word is that he will not be out in Fargo competing. We don't have any other things to really mention with that. 132 pounds, Kyle Grant, Joe Clock, Caleb Morris, and you got Andrew Wirt from Central Dauphin. These are all, I think, four guys that could definitely do some damage. Andrew Greg Wirt, he goes by Greg Wirt. He was a guy who's been ranked nationally before. Kyle Garant is a national prep All-American out of the Hill School. So he's a guy that I think is definitely poised to do well here. And Joe Clock, returning All-American, he was a medalist in Greco last year. He took 8th last year. Joe Clock did in Greco. So hopefully he's able to transition into that to freestyle. Joe Clock's moving up from cadets to junior, where last year in cadet he was 8th in Greco. So he's going to try to repeat that this year, and he's going to competing in both freestyle and Greco. But I like Pennsylvania's chances to get maybe one medal. Caleb Morris as well, a guy who hasn't gotten on the podium yet at Hershey, but has been there all 3 years. 138 pounds, Hunter Baxter, Jack Davis, your boy John Rocco Gonzalez, Garrett Rigg, Nathan Schwartz. So Jack Davis is the headliner here, right? Has a lot of success in both freestyle and Greco. Going out there again, Wyoming Seminary. Scott Green is always preaching the Greco freestyle mentality, and it's really showing. But Jack Davis, I think, is definitely one where he stands out.
Yeah, definitely a big name there, and looking for big things out of him in Fargo.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he just really, obviously those Wyoming Seminary guys are always doing well on that, front, that the freestyle and Greco. And we just saw, Jake Hendricks make a world team from Wyoming Seminary. So obviously they're doing something right out there in the Kingston area. Moving up to 145 pounds, you got Will Caldees, Justin McCoy, Sammy Sasso, Connor Finke, Michael Hoffman, Chase McCullen. So there's a ton of, I think this is the weight with the most wrestlers going out, but obviously the headliners there are Sammy Sasso, Justin McCoy, 2 state champions.
Yeah, and 2 guys that have placed here before. So guys that, are used to Fargo, have performed well out there, and certainly looking for them to do big things again to keep Pennsylvania up there in the team race and try to hold off Illinois again.
Yeah, and obviously Sammy Sasso was second last year. He lost to Brock Hardy from Utah in the finals, 10-9. Interesting enough, he beat Hardy in the national finals the year before that. So he won it his first year going out, was second last year, is looking to get back on top of the podium and finish, as the number 1 guy. And he's ranked number 1 in the nation by Flow. Those very early preseason rankings that came out. McCoy was 5th here last year. He was 5th in cadets, right? He was 5th in cadets.
Yes,
and same with Sasso. So they're both moving up to juniors. But McCoy was 5th in Fargo. Had some really tough matches out there. And I think he's a guy, again, just has continued to improve throughout the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I know we talked a little bit about it before. He's one of those guys that's been a 3-sport guy. He's played baseball, he's played football, and so he hasn't had that complete year-round wrestling mentality. And once he gets into that, I think you're going to continue to see him improve and be one of those guys that could even get better at the college level. He's still got another year left in high school, and definitely some good things on the way for him.
Moving up to 160 pounds, Edmund Ruth jumps off the page at me right away. This is a guy who was a state champion last year for Susquehanna Township. And last year, and he's done a lot of freestyle. He was 4-2 last year in cadets freestyle. So he did miss a top 8 finish, but Edmonds has really shown his improvement from over the year. Winning the state title this year. He's competed in several notable tournaments throughout the offseason. So he's a guy I'm obviously going to be keeping an eye on. You got Kyle Hammett, Kevin Edwards as well at 160 pounds. But you move up to 170, it gets dangerous there.
It does. And Trent Hidlay, obviously the guy, we got to look at him today, looking a little different, no more mullet, but, still the same great wrestler that we've seen for the past couple of years.
Yeah, and he's still doing his his thing. Without the mullet, he can still get to his underhooks regardless. I don't think anything's going to stop him from getting to his underhooks. But what's interesting with Trent is, I think he was a little disappointed with the way that he finished last year. coming away from Fargo, and maybe the year before that as well. But he's a guy who's always been talked about, right? He finished 7th last year in juniors at 160 pounds. Had some tough matches, lost to Jake Alar from Minnesota, lost to him by fall in the quarterfinals, and just really wasn't able to put it together to finish 3rd. So I think he's poised, right? I think he has a little chip on his shoulder when it comes to Fargo.
He does, and we've seen this from him. We've seen him use the losses in the state tournament to motivate him. In Super 32, he lost and was able to come back through and take 3rd. And just he seems like a guy that really does a great job of avenging those and using those losses as motivation to keep pushing himself. And he always finds a way to keep pushing himself through those things and just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the nice things about Trent is, I mean, he was only a state qualifier his freshman year. He bounces back and finishes as a runner-up, and then he's a state champion as a junior. So clearly a guy who's got all the pieces in place to do well. And obviously people are going to be having their eye on him come Fargo. Josh Stillings, he was a cadet double All-American last year. He finished his 4th in freestyle last year, and I believe he was 3rd in Greco. So here's a guy who medaled in both styles in Fargo last year. He's just, I love this kid. I mean, he's a great kid to talk to. He's a little shy, right? But he's still he's a hammer on the mat, and he looked big. We saw him rolling around.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I don't know what they're feeding him out in that way, but he's a guy. I mean, he was a state runner-up to Trent. I mean, he wrestled Trent in the finals of states, and clearly a guy who's ranked in the nation by flow. He's ranked 16th in the nation by flow. A guy that a lot of people would like to have on their college rosters. So Josh it seems like he's been going out to Fargo for a long time now. So I think this is his time to shine, and he's going to be competing at 170. So really looking forward to seeing what he can do.
He's another guy that just seems like every weekend he's somewhere wrestling, just a mat rat and getting after it.
Yeah, and his workout partner, Ben Root from Solenko, I think he's sort of a funky wrestler and wrestles a little bit more of a Greco freestyle repertoire. And Ben Root was a cadet medalist last year. He finished his 4th in Greco, so he's returning Fargo All-American and in cadet. This year, he'll be competing again at 170 in both styles, freestyle and Greco. So definitely think he's a favorite to come away with a medal. And what's surprising here is all these wrestlers are competing, all the names that we just mentioned, Trent, Hidlay, Josh Stillings, they'll be competing in both Greco and freestyle. So that goes back to your analogy there, Eric, is whether these high-level guys do both.
Yeah, and as I said, if they can do it and do it well, absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, for sure. 182, no one from Pennsylvania in juniors is going to be out there. It's crazy to see that. But the one wrestler that was going to go out is Blake Barrick, but he suffered a concussion, and I saw his dad post on Facebook and saying, he's been training very, very hard. He looks the best that he has been in a while, and Blake unfortunately is not going to be able to go out to Fargo. So Pennsylvania is left with no one, Greco or freestyle. So sort of a bummer. But then we get a little gift, and we get Jacob Woodley, and we get Miles Lee and Michael Doggett all coming out at 195.
Yeah, that's not a bad weight, huh?
No, I don't think so. And I also did a feature on Jake Woodley. I mean, here's a guy who could pack it in and say, I've medaled at Fargo 3 times. I'm a 2-time state champion. Why do I have to go out there and wrestle in Fargo? Like he already moved into his dorm room in Oklahoma. Why does he care? Well, it's clear that he really, really, really wants to win a national title, and I think that him going back to Fargo after already committing, after really starting his next chapter in his life, says a lot about him.
I love seeing this because, you're even seeing guys that are entering their senior year. Some of the top guys aren't going to Fargo. Very rarely do you see the guys that have already graduated heading out there. So love seeing, whenever you've got a guy like Jake Woodley that's got the credentials, already headed to a great school like Oklahoma.
Jake's a guy who last year, and again, I did a feature on him. It's on PAPowerWrestling.com. You can go ahead and read it, where I interviewed Jake and talked a little bit about last year for him. And he came away with an 8th place finish. It was his worst finish at Fargo, right? But he was banged up coming back, and he lost to the eventual champion, Owen Webster. One guy that's standing in his way, Eric, and he's a guy that we saw them wrestle a few months ago at the Dapper Dan.
Yeah, and as we said, this is an incredible weight, not just in Pennsylvania, but across the country. I think this is going to be pretty tough weight to win, but I like Woodley's chances, and Miles Lee as well as getting on the podium.
Yeah, Miles Lee's another one. He's a returning All-American as well. The guy who really came onto the scene strong, and he's got his first state medal this last year out of South Philadelphia. But Miles Lee was a 6th place finisher last year in Fargo in junior, so he's going to stay at 95, where I think he's going to have. We saw him today rolling around, and he looks solid, right? He looks like he's ready to make some noise out on the national level again, because he's already done it, right? So definitely looking forward to Jake coming back to Fargo. This is his 4th trip to Fargo. And again, if we see a matchup with him and Jacob Warner, so it's surprising because Jacob Warner's sort of in the same boat, right? Top guy from Illinois, was a highly touted recruit. He's going to Iowa. He's actually rooming with Spencer Lee, right, in Iowa, so that's kind of cool. Jake Warner and Jake Woodley wrestled in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic this past year. Warner came away with a 5-3 victory, but it's a different game. Fargo is. I would make the claim that Fargo's Jake's territory.
As you said, he hasn't won one yet, so we'll see. But I wouldn't put it past him, certainly.
Jake Warner's only a world bronze medalist, but so obviously I'm being a little facetious, but clearly these two are high level guys, and I think they're really. Set for a collision course. Hopefully, Jake can. His best finish was 4th in cadet, so I'm hoping that he can get over the hump and get into the top 2 at least here. So Miles Lee and Jacob Woodley at 195, 220. We got Chris Kober, guy who's been on the national prep scene for quite a number of years at Haverford School, but. Yeah, so that's our guys, our men's junior freestyle and Greco-Roman. And then you look at our junior women, again, Caitlin Walker is going to be competing in juniors and cadets, both there, and at 100 pounds there for the juniors. But 106 pounds, Mia Butler again, Kayla Kerr again. Val Baker at 112. She's a girl that's really been one of the top women wrestlers in the state of Pennsylvania for a number of years. Her and Amanda Walker. Val can be at 112 and Amanda at 117. Both these girls are I think, 2 of the top in the nation, and I think both of them are going to be able to compete for a national championship.
They are, and as you said, they're really starting to bring some recognition to Pennsylvania's girls wrestling. We've had some throughout the years, as you mentioned before, that have brought some recognition, but we've really been known for the boys, and I love to see the girls continue to do well and really put Pennsylvania girls wrestling on the map. Would love to see it thought of the same way nationally as our boys wrestlers are.
That would be a really a cool thing to see happen in Pennsylvania. So, like I said, with our cadet women, when we're out there in Fargo, we're going to be able to get a better understanding, better grasp on what's going on with the women's Pennsylvania team going out there in Fargo. Another girl that's a former Fargo All-American, Mackenzie Mata, from around the TJ area, Thomas Jefferson area of Pittsburgh. She'll be going out to Adrian College to complete her academic and athletic career, but she's coming back at 138 pounds. Tiffany McNellis, she's also someone that's been around for a little bit. So yeah, junior women's, I definitely can see us coming away with quite a few, hardware, a little bit. I don't know what I was trying to say there. I could see Pennsylvania junior women's come away with quite a bit hardware coming back to the Keystone State. So very, very excited to see how our women do. So I think that's enough from us, Eric. I'm not saying that we're not up to par, but we got some guests here that really are going to bring some very good insight to what it is to be going to Fargo.
Yeah, if you're in the car, you're listening, you're getting to your destination, just don't worry about where you're going. Just sit in the car and listen to these interviews because we got some really good stuff here.
Yeah, be that creepy person that's in their car with the car running, sitting outside, and just listen to this for the next 30, 40 minutes because we've got a ton of great guests coming on. We got Sammy Sasso, Trent Hidlay, we've got Josh Stillings, we got Josh Dziewa, we got Bryan Pearsall. We've got them all, right? We even have Teague Moore, right? But Teague's is actually going to be on a separate podcast because Teague doesn't just do 5-minute podcasts. He's more of a half hour kind of guy, which I really love because for that hour it's going to be shadow drilling as you're doing it, as you're listening to it. You're going to be doing push-ups. You're going to be doing, you're going to be practicing that high C. You're going to be practicing that sweep single while you're listening to it because that's just the kind of motivation he brings to it. So really,
we were ready to go after that interview.
I was personally, I was about to, ask for a pair of shoes and see if I could just go out and do a 2-2-2 and not die. But yeah, so we definitely got some good guys coming on to talk a little bit about Fargo. So let's get that started. Joining us now, Trent Hidlay, Mifflin County state champion from Pennsylvania. Trent, you're getting ready to go out to Fargo. How you feeling?
I feel really good, really ready. Last few years, haven't had the best finishes out there. Got a 7th and 8th. Not really happy with that. I want to go out there and, really wrestle tough and, hopefully get on top this year.
You said you were a little disappointed with the way you finished in prior, trips out to Fargo. What have you taken away from those trips out to Fargo prior to, going into it this year?
I think I just need to be ready for, each match and, treat it the same, whether I'm wrestling one of the best kids in the bracket or, a lower level kid. I just got to go out there and get to my attacks early, open up the score a little bit and, just stay really active. I think over the last few years I've got there, when I get a lead, I kind of sit back on it a little bit, and it sometimes comes back to get me. So I just want to keep pressuring the guy, keep scoring, getting my leg attacks, and open up the match and just try to get attacks early.
Trent, from kind of looking at it from the outside, looking in, it seems to me like you've really come into your own since Fargo last year. You feel like you're really improving and have better opportunities this time around?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm wrestling, the best I've ever had. Best I've ever wrestled before. I won a lot of tournaments this year, and I think that'll help me get into Fargo with just the grind of it. Going through the tournament against some of the best guys in the country. You got to be ready each match, and you got to having that experience through tournaments like Powerade and the state tournament and Super 32 stuff like that. That really helps you when you get in there. You're starting to get tired, but you really got to approach every match the same and be ready to wrestle every time you step on the mat.
Talk about your brother, because your brother had a lot of success in Fargo, and he went through those grinds, and he had some in Greco and freestyle. Have you talked to him, Hayden, about just going through the experience and really preparing you for going out there?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, his advice for me is the same. Just go out there and, wrestle the way I know how to wrestle, and things will take care of themselves. He pretty much just told me to go out there and do what I do, and, I'll be fine. So, I believe that. I just got to go out there and, wrestle like I have the whole season. I think things will fall in place for me. I think I have a legitimate chance to win this thing, and, but I don't want to be too placid. I want to go out there and I want to go out there and just wrestle hard and score a lot of points, get a lot of takedowns, wrestle the way Trent Hidlay knows how to wrestle, and just win a lot of matches.
Solving the world's problems with one underhook at a time. We had a college podcast yesterday. Mason Beckman quoted you by saying that you try to solve the world's problems with one underhook at a time. Talking about just your style. I mean, your style is pretty. We always see it. showcased on Flow or wherever it is, and do you sort of just embrace that style that you have, that just really going for those underhooks?
Yeah, I mean that's where I obviously hit a lot of my offensive attacks, and I've tried to open up a little bit more, get to my underhooks in more different ways, whether it's snapping down kids or just more pressure to it. But I need to keep adding more offensive stuff. I think whenever I start wrestling the best guys in the country or even older guys like I did at Vegas, you might get that a few times, but when guys start to figure it out, you got to have another go-to shot. So I'm really working on that to just broaden my offensive skills, and I think that's going to help me out a lot. Just keep different guys on their toes, and have it in my back, have the underhook in my back pocket when I need to use it late in the match or something.
Talk about the camp so far. You've been up at Clarion for the last 2 days now. What's the camp been like? What do what people are you learning the most from? What's it like being in this environment?
Yeah, the camp's been going great so far. We got a lot of great coaches here. I'm really grateful to have so much experienced coaches in here showing us stuff. You got Teague Moore. He showed us a lot of great technique and has been really running a great camp. Guys like Brad Dillon. All the guys from Clarion, they're doing a great job with us, keeping us on task, hitting the stuff we need to hit, and, getting really good workouts when we need to. So, I feel really good. I know a lot of the guys are feeling good. We're really ready to get out there and just start showcasing our skills with the stuff they've taught us, and, we're just ready to wrestle.
Now, switching gears to the recruiting front, you are considered one of the top-ranked recruits not only in the state but in the nation. There's been a lot of speculation about where you may end up. What's that process been like for you? The recruiting process, is it daunting? Is it sort of overwhelming, or where are you at with that?
No, it's been really fun. I'm trying not to stress about it too much, just going through the process and having fun with it. You get to talk to a lot of coaches, get to visit a lot of programs, and I think that's really cool to see all the different types of, just all the different types of programs and how they're run by different coaches. So just really enjoying the process and, taking it day by day and, just really having fun with it. I'm not ready to commit by any means right now. So, I'm thinking probably, maybe mid-October, early November, I should know. But just want to take all my officials, make sure I'm finding the right fit for me and, going from there. I visited a lot of places. Early on, I wanted to make sure that if I had any interest in schools, I wanted to see them. So my parents and I got out to a lot of schools to, check them out and see what their program had to offer. So that helps me a lot in deciding, what officials I want to take to and what schools I want to visit again. So that's helped me out a lot.
Well, Trent, we appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you out in Fargo and hopefully coming back with that stop sign. So
I hope so. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Trent. All right, join us now, Sammy Sasso from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, state champion from District 11. Sammy, you're out here in Clarion. You're getting ready to head out to Fargo. You got a lot of Fargo experience. Last year you came up a little short. I know you're a little – I can still see it in you. You're a little – that bothers you a little bit. Talk about your trip back to Fargo this year in 2017. You seem like you're laser focused. What's it been like training up to this point, getting back to that top?
Camp's been good and training's been going well. This is a step up from where we stayed last year, so it's nice. And the coaching staff is just unbelievable. We got All-Americans, college coaches in here showing technique, which is it's just great to help everyone, and especially me going into Fargo.
We talked about that last year, coming up short, falling to Brock Hardy from Utah. You actually wrestled him the year prior to that too, right? You beat him in the finals. Yeah. Lost him in the finals. There's a chance you may be able to see him again. Does that sort of excite you? Does it seem like you want to?
I'm not going to look ahead to that, but I can see it happening right now. I'm just trying to focus on one match at a time and do what I do, score points and get after it.
You've been pretty busy this offseason. It seems like you haven't taken your shoes off since winning the state championship. You've been doing a lot. Flow Nationals, you did. You just had the Bison Legend duels over the weekend. Talk about you just competing. It's like you're not stopping. Does that feel? Does that prepare you for this trip out to Fargo?
Yeah, it does. And sometimes I want to take a break, and then it's the tournament's there, I'm going to go wrestle and compete, and that's just like my nature, I guess. But I'm excited. I'm excited to get back out there and be in Fargo.
You talked a little bit about the coaches here. We saw you rolling around with Justin McCoy and just all the talented coaches that are here in Clarion. What's something that you've taken away so far from the camp that you can really use when you're going out to Fargo?
Just like little tricks and technique that they're showing, and just little tweaks to what you think is right, and then a college coach's perspective, a D1 athlete, showing you just if you do this, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get 5 turns on your lace instead of 2, and that's gonna help in big matches and getting off the mat quick out there. It's gonna be a long grind. It's like probably 7 matches in total if you make it to the finals, and then you gotta get out of there as soon as you can, and that's what they're trying to do, showing us moves to end the match.
It's a grind, like you said. I mean, you've been through it twice now. Yeah. I mean, obviously, does that help you comfortability-wise? You've been out to Fargo. This is not a new trip for you. You're sort of a veteran here. Does that sort of help your mindset going into Fargo?
I'm just looking at this Fargo as another tournament. I'm here to wrestle, and whether this was my first time coming out or my second, third, fourth, it really don't matter. I come out with the same mindset, ready to wrestle, ready to score, not overlooking anyone or looking ahead to the finals and this and that, because you can get upset like that.
Talking about you and pressure, I mean, you're a well-known name in the nation and the state. Flow actually just came out with their rankings for next year, very, very preseason rankings, but they had you number 1 in the nation. Do you feel any pressure when you go on and you see that stuff and you have people talking to you? And is it ever overwhelming to you?
I try not to focus on that stuff. There's a point where I wasn't ranked, and who cares if that guy's 1, 2, 100? You got to go out there and wrestle. It really don't matter. You got to go out there. You got to score points. You got to take risks, and you got to get after it.
Talking about you and pressure, recruiting process right now. That's got to be a pretty daunting thing that you have to go through, being one of the top-ranked guys coming into this year. What's the recruiting process been like for you, and can you give us an update on what that's like?
It's a process, and just got to take it in right now and enjoy it, home visits and stuff. It's awesome, and it's only going to happen once, in this year. And my mom enjoys it. She likes coming out to eat and stuff, and it's cool. And just talking wrestling with coaches and learning new stuff. But it's a process, and it does get a little stressful, a little hectic, but you just got to take it in and enjoy it.
Sammy, who have you had as far as in-home visits go so far?
I had Ohio State come in, Iowa State, and Virginia Tech.
Talking about, does that humbling to you that these big name guys and big name programs are coming to you, to Nazareth, and is that humbling? Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's pretty awesome to see Frank Molinaro come up in the front door, but it's part of the process, and I'm just taking it and enjoying it.
Do you have any kind of timeline as far as when you want to make a decision?
I'd like to make a decision before my senior year, just to I don't have to be in contact with all the coaches during wrestling season. I like to focus on the wrestling aspect and getting better day in and day out.
Going into your senior season, you got another really good returning lineup. We saw you guys win the state tournament in epic fashion. What's it been like now that you're a leader on this team for Nazareth? What's the mindset going into? It seems like yesterday you were a freshman going in, rolling around with the likes of Spencer Lee and some other big names. What's the mindset going into your senior season, being a leader on Nazareth?
It's a ways away, but to say we want to go in and do the same thing is not out of the question. You know, we got kids coming in and just hard workers, you know, and Coach Kroll is just, you know, it's really hard to compare anyone to him, and just the process that he's going to put everyone through, and it's impossible not to get better, you know. So, like, these freshmen, we had a tough freshman group this year, and a lot of them didn't start, you know. And they stayed up on the high school team, wrestled JV. They didn't get any matches, but they didn't go down to junior high, and that's going to show next year. You know, you're going to see guys like Connor Hersig and Blaine Wilson, Brock Wilson's brother. Like, they're really going to step up next year, and it's going to show just from being in that room all year with guys like me, Stefanik, and just being around them, and you're going to see it in this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think you make a good point that it's those guys that are in the room grinding out. You may not have seen them on the mat necessarily last year, but you have a lot of young talent coming up through, and I think that speaks highly of Coach Corral and what he's done in Nazareth. So, well, we look forward to seeing you out in Fargo, Sammy. We know you want to get back to the top, and you know, we're hoping that you can do that. It seems like you're focused and ready to get the job done. So we look forward to seeing you in Fargo. We appreciate you taking the time out and talking to us on the PA Power Podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Sammy. We are now joined by Josh Stillings from Penridge, Pennsylvania. And Josh, you're coming off a state finals appearance where you're the runner-up in the state tournament. You've been one of the biggest names on the Pennsylvania circuit for the last few years now. It's hard to believe that you're going into your senior season at Penridge, but you're out here at Clarion getting ready to go out to Fargo. Which I said seems like the 19th time you're going out to Fargo. It seems like you've been going to Fargo for a long time. What's it like this year, 2017, getting ready to gear up and head out there?
I feel like I'm more prepared. I'm ready to go. I feel like it's my time to win it. I feel like last year I didn't have as much confidence as I do this year, so that's changed.
So you feel like the confidence. What do you attribute that to? That confidence that you have maybe this year as opposed to last year?
I guess just continuously training over the summer. Just getting older and maturing makes me more confident, and yeah. So
when you talked about just maturing and part of that process is gearing up for the next stage of your life. What's that process been like for you? Having college coaches show up to your house and say that they want you to come. I mean, that's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I'm enjoying it with my family. It's really cool to see hard work paying off for me. I'm really enjoying the process. It's fun. Talking
about this, setting yourself apart. You were just recently named, top in the nation by Flow. They had you ranked in their top 20. And do you look at that stuff and you get excited? Do you feel like it's hard work paid off, but you still have a lot more to accomplish? Is it, pressure?
Yeah, it's definitely really cool to be ranked by Flow. It's always been one of my goals when I was a freshman to get ranked by Flow eventually. So it's awesome, but 16th gives me a lot of room to climb up, so that's cool.
Right. There's a lot of room for improvement out there, right? It seems like I don't know what you've been eating. I don't know what they've been feeding you. But you look huge. You look like I just remember you being a 112-pounder wrestling guys and PJWs. How do you feel physically? I mean, you look good. Do you feel good up at that little bit higher weight?
Yeah, I feel great up higher weights. I think it's best for me to wrestle up higher and bring my style to heavier weight classes, like moving around and speed and stuff like that, because I feel like they're not as fast up in heavier weight classes. They're definitely stronger, but if you bring speed to them, they're not going to be able to handle it. So,
what's it been like having the coaches here that are at the camp with you? You have a lot of experience here. I mean, just tons of talent in the room, not only coaches but practice partners. What's it been like to roll around with some of these big name guys and have instructions from coaches such as Teague Moore, Kyle Kiss, and the list goes on and on?
Yeah, it's really great to be with better people. Like, the only way that I'm going to get better is wrestling people that are better than me. So I just got to keep wrestling those type of people and get better.
Going forward here to Fargo, what are you looking forward to most? Is there anything like you've been out there so many times? Is there something you look forward to going out there?
I think it's just a great event. They run it really well. There's always no delays or anything. I don't know, it's a really good tournament. I have fun there. It's nice, like, having tough competition, so I like that.
Now, you had to work to get here. You had to work to get out to Fargo. I heard you had to put on a clinic and a camp. Talk about that. What's that been like? Is the coach Stillings is coming out and you talking about maturing? Did you put on a little clinic to raise some money? Is that what I hear?
Yeah. So there was a lot of little kids around, like, my area that really look up to me, and so they asked me to do. The one little kid's dad owns, like, a wrestling barn, so we went in there and we did, like, a 2-hour clinic and showed the kids whatever they wanted to learn, and it was really fun. I enjoy coaching. I really like it.
You like getting in that instruction period and getting down with the little kids and really showing them sort of the it was not a long time ago you were there, right? So that's got to be a pretty satisfying feeling to give back and know that kids are they want to look up to you and they want to watch you. That's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I love like, I remember when I was in those shoes, I would always look up to, like, Scotty Parker and kids like that. So it's cool, like, being on the other end of the spectrum.
I heard you had a nice trick for keeping their attention when you were asking them questions and you pulled out of the bag something for them.
Yeah. So at the end of the clinic, I asked them to go over all the moves that we learned, and I said, "Who remembers the first move?" And, like, one kid raised his hand, and then I go into my bag and I pull out a bunch of my singlets from when I was little. And I start giving them out to kids that remember the moves, and all of a sudden they all start raising their hands right away. So that was fun.
Sounds like you could be a teacher too. Maybe you could be a teacher and a coach.
Yeah.
Very cool there, Josh, to kind of give him a little reward there for remembering.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Josh, we look forward to seeing you out in Fargo. Just really hope the best for you and going out there and grinding it out as you have in the past. And we appreciate you taking the time out and talking to us about your experience and going forward. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks, Josh. Join us now, newly announced assistant coach at Penn, Bryan Pearsall. Formerly of Penn State, formerly of Warwick. You've been over a lot of different places. You're at Army. Just really coming on to your own in the coaching sense. Talking about the experience that you had going to the Fargo camps, it seems like just yesterday you were here competing, getting ready to go out there. What's it like to be back here as a coach in that role?
It's different. I came up through the PAWF system. I started as a schoolboy and did schoolboy duals, schoolboy nationals, all the way up through cadet duals, cadet nationals, all the way to juniors. And coming up through the system and now being on the other end of it in the coaching area, it's a lot different, and it's really humbling to come full circle. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to give back to the kids. And, I'm not here to recruit. I'm here to really give back and help. And, I'm doing the best I can with trying to make connections with these young kids and help them out the most I can. And it's been really fun so far.
Talking about you back in Warwick and wrestling with some of the top guys, and how did the Fargo experience and how did wrestling freestyle Greco, how did that translate for you in your folk style, and how did that help you improve on your folk style skills?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there weren't as many off-season tournaments back then. The big thing was Fargo. Everyone went to Fargo. So as soon as the high school season ended for me, I started doing the local PAWF regional circuit and going to those tournaments, going to states, getting ready for the duels and for Fargo. And, that really helped me get to the next level, I felt like. Because the competition in the area I was wrestling in was only so good in the Lancaster, Lebanon area at that time. So I really had to seek out outside competition to really get me to the next level. And being on these trips and being able to travel all over the country and wrestle kids from all over the place, it really paid dividends for me.
It's almost like you peaked in college. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, has someone told you that before? I mean,
yep.
And that I think has a lot to do with wrestling, that national, that folk style, freestyle combination that you had. I mean, do you feel like that a little bit?
Yeah, I feel like that. When I got to Penn State and I started being surrounded by really good coaches and mentors and had, other guys in the room that were accomplishing great things, that rises you up to their level. I wasn't on the level of a guy like David Taylor, Ed Ruth, but just being around those guys and picking up things from them, it makes you a better wrestler and a better person. And, like you said, I feel like I peaked in college, and once I got those training partners and coaches, some people get to college and they burn out and they're ready to be done, or they start declining. I felt like I just kept getting better and better every year. And now, transition into a coach's role, I feel like I'm much better coach than I was a wrestler. So it's going really well so far.
I mean, talk about a world of experience. I mean, wrestling in Lancaster, Lebanon at Warwick, trying to find partners to roll around with where other people have them, right next door, seeking out that competition, going to different programs. It seems like you got a wealth of knowledge to give back to these kids. So it's really nice to see you doing that. Talking about transitioning to coaching now, what got you into coaching? What was that process like for you?
So I really didn't know what I wanted to do up until about my junior year of college. And then I really started to pick up some things from Coach Kale, Coach Casey, and Coach Cody at Penn State that really brought out my passion and my love for the sport that maybe I didn't recognize that I had that before. That combined with the fact that maybe I didn't accomplish exactly what I wanted to in college, that gave me more fuel to get back and try to help other athletes accomplish that themselves. So I figured out I wanted to coach probably my senior year, and then I went full force with that after graduation. And I'm really grateful and thankful for the guys at Rutgers. They gave me a chance my first year right out of college. I was working with the Scarlet Knight Wrestling Club with Coach Goodell and Frank Molinaro and those guys up there. So that's how it kind of all got started. And then I was there for one season, and then I transitioned up to West Point. And I was just there for the past 3 years and picked up a lot of really good things there. Kevin Ward is an Oklahoma State guy, so their system of wrestling is a lot different from Penn State. So I learned a lot of stuff from him, stuff on my feet that I didn't know from Penn State. So I've, like you said, I've gathered a wealth of knowledge from every place I went to and kind of combined it into my own system. And, really excited to be back at Penn now in my home state of Pennsylvania, and there are really some exciting things going on there.
Talking about that, just being at Penn, I mean, that's a place that, you have Brandon Slay back there, you have Roger Reyna back now, you have all these places in pieces in place. What's it like to be part of that experience? I mean, that's got to be pretty cool.
It's a very exciting time. We've been talking about it as a staff. It seems like there hasn't been as much buzz around the program as there is now in a long, long time. Having Hall of Fame head coach Roger Reyna back and the things he was able to do at Penn was incredible in the time that he was coaching. And, he's refreshed, he's refueled, and he's fired up about, being back. And so, and having Olympic champ Brandon Slay running our regional training center is amazing, and four-time All-American Mike McMullen is our coach there as well. So, and we're gonna announce our volunteer assistant here shortly, which is going to be another exciting addition. We're the thing we're really been talking about is it's a movement. We've got a movement going at Penn, and our goal of keeping these PA guys in state is only going to make that movement even stronger. So we're really excited about it.
That's really cool to hear that. Eric and I have talked about this multiple times about different programs and Pitt. I feel like Pitt is sort of in the same boat, that they're getting some momentum now. They have some coaching changes, so it's really nice to see these Pennsylvania guys stay in state and compete for these programs that have such high standards, and it's really nice to see. Going forward with Penn, you've already had some pretty decent commits come through. You had Doug Zapp from Downingtown West, who's a state champion. He's here. What's it like for you to really connect on that level and say, hey, look, I did that. I wasn't the top recruit coming out of high school, but I went to Penn State. I had success there. Do you feel like you really connect with kids on that level?
Yeah, it's a lot easier for me to connect with PA kids than it is, because at West Point we recruited all over the country. Yeah. So I'm recruiting kids from Indiana, California, Oklahoma, you name it. But being able to, have that connection with the PA kids and, like I said, I wrestled all over the state. I know people from everywhere. So anytime, you go to so-and-so high school, do you know this person?
Yeah,
I always used to wrestle this guy. And, normally there's always common talking points with PA guys that you can start building a relationship on. And then, but it is really cool being back. And, like I said, our goal is to recruit the Northeast pretty hard and keep these guys in state. And, we do that. It's only going to get stronger at Penn.
That sounds really, really promising, and we look forward to seeing the success that you are going to be part of there at Penn, and not far away from where you grew up either. You can just jump on the train and stop off at Lidditz, and that's going to be nice.
Yeah, it's good. So my fiance, I'm recently engaged this past winter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's down there as well. She lives in Westchester, and her family's down there, and I'm going to be about an hour away from my family in Lancaster. So I couldn't really ask for a better situation.
Yeah.
This is a long-term thing for me. It's somewhere I want to be for a long time, and it's really exciting.
Cool. Well, we look forward to seeing, the things to come at Penn, and we appreciate you being here and taking the time out to talk to us and, giving some instructions to these young kids that, you were once one of those kids. So it's nice to see. So we appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryan. Joining us now is Josh Dziewa you're from this, this part of the nation. You're coming from Pennsylvania. You've been all over the place. It seems like you went out to Iowa. You're coming back here to Pennsylvania at Penn. Talk about what are you up to these days, and where have you, where you see yourself going?
Well, I've been at Drexel the past year, and I plan on staying, for the foreseeable future. We got a really good thing going. Before we get started, I want to say I appreciate what you guys do for the sport of wrestling, Pennsylvania wrestling especially, getting the word out there. And, I follow you guys all the time. So
we appreciate it.
And everything. It's great stuff. Yeah, you know what? I'm at Drexel. Good things. I love Coach Azevedo and Coach Schaefer, and we got a good, solid team of hardworking kids. So that's all good. And, we're part of the Pennsylvania Regional Training Center with Penn, so we're partners in there. And, so we get to have, BJ Futrell and Chase Pammy and Dan Valamont and, Richard Perry, absolute superstars, top 5 guys in the country at every weight in our room frequently. So, it's a good situation. We got a stud freshman class coming in, superstar now, Austin DeSanto, that we're excited about. So, things are good at Drexel, and, that's where I see myself for the foreseeable future.
I mean, talk about that connection and Brandon Slay coming in there, taking over at the RTC. What's it been like having that connection between Penn and Drexel, and how's that benefited mutually both programs?
Yeah, well, it's been a great partnership. Since Brandon's gotten there, we've increased our numbers to, we'll have 50 high school kids in that room sometimes. I mean, it's gotten, to the part where, we're running out of space. We need to split the groups up and stuff like that. So things have been really, really good in the Pennsylvania Regional Training Center. When it comes down to the partnership between Penn and Drexel, I mean, I worked for Alex Terapelli last year, and, it was something that he really emphasized. That was, we are, trying to beat each other to a certain extent, but we're not number 1, number 2 teams in America, and until that is the case, we might as well help each other get better, So it's an extra 30 guys in the room, and, different workout partners, and ultimately there's, the intensity gets raised a little bit because they're 3 blocks down the road,
Right.
Our guys have a little bit of pride, their guys have a little bit of pride, so, it gets a little heated, and, it's only 2 or 3 days a week that they get training together. Our guys are on co-op right now, so our schedules are a little screwy, but, we go later at night, and so when we do get the opportunity to roll with them, it's really good for both programs.
It's not like Iowa and Penn State are practicing 3 days a week together.
No, it's not. We would have, out at Iowa, we'd have like Cornell College, some of the D3 schools around the area. They'd come in, roll around with us, but no, it's
it seems like it's definitely paying dividends, like you said, like Brandon bringing in all those top guys that you had mentioned and training. I think it's good for the Philly area too, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
where you spent a lot of time in that District 1 area, Council Rock South. Do you feel like, that's ignited that sort of area, and you see the Philly?
That's the mission statement, is to grow the entire ecosystem, and part of that is with Beat the Streets, Philadelphia, and, they do a really good job, providing kids with wrestling opportunities and trying to change their life trajectory. And then, with the RTCs and the different college programs, our recruiting classes are only getting better and better for everyone. Roger's already locked up a world team member in Hendricks.
And Jake Hendricks,
and he's got a little Doug Zapp committed too. So, he's already making waves. And, we got a little Dante Menino committed, and we got our eyes on, a few more studs. So, we start piling together these good classes, and we're working together, and, we can see these programs ultimately, just going up, especially in the IWA.
Talking about your experiences, you went to Iowa, you had a successful career there. talking about that experience, what have you really taken away from Iowa and that style and the Brands brothers and for you to bring it back to Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Well, let's make no mistake about it. I failed miserably at Iowa. So that's
I knew,
all right.
It's okay. I knew you were going to say something I
I appreciate that. It's real nice of you to say, but that's okay. I'm working on getting over it. What I learned, effort is one of the biggest things. I feel like I can outwork anybody that I'm wrestling. And then, on top of that, just the mindset and the philosophy is scoring as many points as possible, trying to beat every single person by the largest margin possible every single time. That's something that Tom would say over and over again, and that's instilled, and I try to instill that in my guys, utilizing the entire 7 minutes. We get guys that like to dance around a little bit and then maybe hit one attack. But it's easy to defend one attack, whereas, you put 6, 7, 8 attacks together, which, I wasn't necessarily great at doing myself, but it's something that I've learned and I've actually gotten a lot better at since I've graduated. Just kind of moving more fluidly and, coming back into my own wrestling a little bit. The more attacks you throw, the more chances you have to be successful. And, it's something that, I'm very thankful for that program for teaching me, so.
I didn't mean to bring up, the dark days when you think you didn't do as well. You did, and you represented Pennsylvania very well.
I appreciate it.
So you were highly touted coming out of high school, right? You spent some time out in Fargo. Talk about that experience for you, and now being reversed roles here. And now you're out coaching, and it's
I wasn't that highly touted actually until my senior year. So what happened was, my freshman, sophomore years, I ended up not placing in the state tournament. I'm in the quarters with Josh Kindig.
Ended up
getting cradled in double overtime. And then I'm heartbroken, can't mentally come back together, end up losing to a kid I don't even know his name anymore. So I don't place my sophomore year. So I'm going into my junior year, 0 state medals.
Right.
And then I transfer schools and get suspended for an athletic transfer. So I pay the penalty. I sit out my junior year. So going into my senior year, I have 0 state medals, which, hurts. But where I did have success and won Super 32, I was an All-American out in Fargo every year. And, good things coming from there. And then my first year junior, I decided to bag Greco. And I go out in freestyle and end up winning the tournament. And then, I got a couple more phone calls. And, I don't know if, you know my history at all, but I've been born and raised a Hawkeye fan. That was all. I had 2 older brother figures in my life that preached Iowa wrestling to me from 5th grade. So I didn't know anything else. And I was originally verbal to Rutgers, and I was looking at Virginia Tech. I was looking at Nebraska and other schools, and Tom Brands called me. It was a done deal, under discussion. That's pretty much. And my eyes lit up. I was I'd never wanted something more in my entire life. So. That call came, I went on a visit, and boom, bang, I'm a Hawkeye, and, I've never been more excited. So that's kind of my little path that happened, so winning Fargo ended up being, a $75,000 tournament for me. Which,
right.
Really
yeah.
nice,
I mean, like you said, maybe you weren't getting all the looks that I thought deserved having, 0 state medals. You had that to sit out that year after going from Pennsbury to Council Rock South.
Right, and that's where I wanted to go with that. I'm sorry I cut myself short, but so I signed to Iowa, and then all of a sudden, my chest gets puffed out a little bit. My mindset's all on, and I'm just, I got a little flavor to me, and I just start going out there and spanking kids. I get, I bump up 2 weight classes to wrestle Andrew Walton in the Escape the Rock finals, and I get beat, but, just like, who do I think I am? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I go through, I don't get scored on at the state tournament, and, I really truly believe that it was because I had already committed and signed to Iowa, and I felt like I had something to prove to those guys that they didn't screw up by offering me a scholarship. So I went out there and took care of business, and I had a great senior season, ended up number 1 kid in America. So things they change really quick. So any struggling kids out there, it's never too late. Good things happen.
Is that something that you preach to these kids? I mean, I see you when we were watching the practice. You're very involved, hands-on. Obviously, you're just really seems like you really like it. I saw you down at Super 32 coaching Miles Lee. And it seems like you're really invested and you care.
For sure. I mean, I know a lot of these kids being around the city for 2 years, and I coached the Tulsa, the junior nationals duels team last year and this year, and I coached both cadet and junior Fargo, Greco, and freestyle last year. So, now I got some familiar faces, and, I've built a good relationship with these kids, and they trust me, and, they know that I just expect effort. That's number one thing. They're out there wrestling. If they're not giving me what I want to see, they come back, and after 3 minutes, they're going to get told that I need a little bit more, and usually things go their way when they just try a little bit harder. So, I have a really good relationship with a lot of those kids, especially the studs that I had on my Tulsa team last year, Sasso and Hidlay and Woodley and all those guys. We formed some pretty good bonds.
Talking about this year, expectations pretty high for Team Pennsylvania going out to Fargo this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we gun it to win it every year. Illinois had a stranglehold on freestyle and Greco wrestling. But we took the national title from them last year, and there's no reason that we can't do it again. I heard through the grapevine that we're not going to have Gavin Teasdale out there, which hurts us for a possible national champion. But that just means someone else got to step up and do the job. So we got the firepower. There's no reason that we can't. We just need to do it, and that's what it comes down to.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out. Really respect what you're doing at throughout your college career and now coaching. We look forward to seeing you develop that program at Drexel and the Regional Training Center, and we hope to see some stop signs coming back to Pennsylvania.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Go PA. Go Dragons. All right.
Thanks, brother.
I appreciate it.
Great.
Eric, I can't say enough how much I appreciate all those guys coming on and talking to us. Wrestlers, coaches. You see coaches giving back. We talked to some wrestlers like Josh Stillings. He's giving back. And, Trent and Sammy, two guys that are going to continue to give back to the sport. And it's just awesome to see this come full circle.
It was, and thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed those interviews as much as we did, and are as excited as we are to see what these guys can do in Fargo.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric, and I'm excited for Fargo. We'll be out there. Follow PA Power Wrestling on Twitter at PA Power Wrestle. Follow us on Facebook at PA Power Wrestling. And, we're going to give you the best coverage you can get of the Keystone State because that's what we do at PA Power Wrestling. So be sure to check us out at papowerwrestling.com. If you want some gear, we got some sweet new shirts, Eric, these gray shirts.
Yeah.
Kids are loving them, right? We had to switch.
They were loving them today.
We had to switch it up a little bit. And I will tell you, I look pretty good in one. So if you want to
I think... I don't know if I go that far, Jeff, but other people look pretty good in them.
Yeah, right. If you go on Instagram, you can see maybe I may or may not have modeled the shirt when I was at the Pirates game one day. So you can check it out for yourself, right? So, so visit papowerwrestling.com. We're going to give you a little bit more Fargo stuff coming forward before we head out there, but stay tuned for a lot more. Thanks for tuning in.